Hello, welcome to Workplace Wake Up. I'm Jen Shaw. Every week, I spend about 15 minutes covering key legal developments, introducing you to interesting guests, and providing some entertainment to start your workday. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 150th episode of this podcast. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. This is crazy. It doesn't seem like I've recorded 150 of these. But I'm so happy to have you with us today. We're going to talk about a really interesting new concept in the workplace. We've all heard of the Great Resignation, right? Well, now people are writing about something called the Great Detachment. The Great Detachment. So this is really interesting, okay? There is record turnover in the workplace right now. And there are a number of surveys. Fortune magazine did an article on this. The Wall Street Journal's done an article on it. There's all kinds of data out there. But basically, about 51%, according to one survey, of current employees are looking for a new job and actively doing so, okay? They are frustrated because the job market right now is pretty tricky, and the application process can be really tough. So a lot of this is because of artificial intelligence in human resources, where there are these formulas and these sort of programs that employers are using to do first looks at evaluations and references and that sort of thing. And nobody's getting personal treatment, and they just feel like they're in a job they don't like or they don't want anymore, but they can't find another job. So they quietly quit. We've talked about that, right? They do the minimum that they can in the workplace because they're just not motivated and they're tired and they don't want to do it anymore. So one of the things that I want to talk about here today is this great detachment. It's really part of what happened during COVID, the Great Resignation, right? Because if you look at a number of these surveys that I've been reading lately, the percentage of employees who say they are committed to their job is the lowest it's been in more than 10 years, okay, more than a decade. And that's because I think there's a lot going on in the workplace that employees don't have control over. There are layoffs that are related to AI because we can have someone do the job, or we can have a computer do the job. And if the computer does it, it's going to be right, and it's going to be quick, and it's going to be relatively inexpensive. Corporate profits have skyrocketed, but wages have not. And I think a lot of employers see their employees as replaceable. I work with a nonprofit right now that has a board of directors, and they're having some challenges. And one of their board members, who's their board chair, seems to think everybody is fungible, right? Well, so what if they quit? We'll just hire somebody else. It doesn't work that way, right? It's very hard to find new employees right now. It's hard to recruit. It's hard to retain. There's just a lot going on. So now that we're sort of out of the Great Resignation, what we have entered into is this sort of jaded time that many of us are experiencing called the Great Detachment. And it's this sort of combination of quiet quitting and quiet vacationing where every generation, I don't care if we're talking about Gen Z, boomers, I don't care who we're talking about, people are feeling disillusioned. They're feeling underappreciated. They're feeling that they just don't want to be doing what they're doing. They're not motivated. They're not engaged. They don't think it's fun anymore. And I'm old-fashioned about this, okay? I'm going to admit my bias right here. And it's not even a sort of unconscious bias because I'm completely aware of it. I have always worked hard. I had a single mom most of the time when I was growing up. And I had to work as soon as I could work. And I'm grateful for that. I learned to wait tables. I think everybody should wait tables. I was having a talk with the Uber driver about this the other day. What you learn waiting tables is critical. Multitasking, being able to be efficient, knowing how to deal with difficult people. I mean, everybody should have to work in a restaurant, as far as I'm concerned, for like a year. There should be a 1-year requirement. because it's amazing. So anyway, I feel like I worked hard. I worked hard to go to law school. I just had my 30th law school reunion, got to see a lot of old classmates, saw the place where I sat every day in all my different classes. It was just fascinating. And so interesting to think about the fact that I still love my job. I love what I do. Look, is there too much of it sometimes? Sure. Do I wish a client wouldn't send me a subpoena that has to be dealt with tomorrow when they got it on September 3rd and they just sent it to me today? Yes, that happens sometimes. But overall, when we're talking about job satisfaction, I feel satisfied. I feel like I like my work. I love my clients. I like the people I work with. I love them. I mean, it's just, I feel like I'm not having a great detachment, but other people are, right? And I think I might even contribute to some of that because I think my enthusiasm is somehow going to be infectious, but I think sometimes it might actually make people unhappy. They don't want to have to deal with someone who's saying, hey, no, really, we should do this non-billable project because we're going to learn a lot from it and it's going to be great. Like, really, Jen? No, because my bonus is based on how many hours I bill and I don't want to waste my time on things that aren't billable. I get it. I totally get it. So my point in all of this is if you have a perspective like mine, where you really never thought about something called the Great Detachment. When I read it in the first article that I read on it a few weeks ago, I thought, well, what is that, the Great Detachment? But it's not only employees who are being detached, it's also leaders, managers, supervisors, all of a sudden not coming into the office as much. We have a hybrid schedule, let's say, where they're supposed to come in 2 days a week, and for a month or so, they don't come in at all. They just don't feel like it's necessary. In HR, this is like the fall of Rome, right? When you start talking about this idea that people are detached, they don't want to work here, they don't know where they do want to work, they don't know what they want to do. It's hard when you're in HR to try to figure out, what should I be doing to turn this around? What steps can I take? How can I infuse a little motivation and a little enthusiasm and a little engagement? It's tough. I wish I had all the answers to that. I don't. I do know that every workplace is individual. Every workplace is unique and different. Every workplace is going to need different things to get their people ticking and to make their people feel appreciated and valued and part of a team. It's particularly hard when you do have a fully remote workplace or a hybrid workplace where you don't see each other all the time. We have employees who work with us remotely who I haven't seen in years. Okay? Years. I see them on Zoom, right? But they're never in the office. They don't even live in the state, right? This happens. And I try really hard to check in with them and make sure they're happy and talk to them about things. But there's no substitute for being able to sit in somebody's office, in my opinion, and say, how's it going? How can I help? What do you need? So in HR, we have to take the initiative. If you find that your own HR team is disillusioned and detached and feeling not so engaged, take some immediate action. Schedule an offsite. Do a fun activity. Do something to get everybody enthused. You've got to do what you can. Look, the truth of the matter is many, many people, if they had a couple $1 million properly invested, they wouldn't work, right? They would do something else. They would not work with you, right? They would not work with me. They would do something else. But they don't. They don't have a couple $1 million properly invested, or they would be doing that. So they have to work. And if they have to work, we need to make the workplace the best place it can be. I remember right before COVID happened, I was working with Zappos shoes, and they were telling me how they had all these parties for their employees, like they could dress up and once a week they had contests. And I remember thinking, wow, really? Like, that seems like it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. Like, shouldn't people just be doing their work? Well, guess what? Zappos had it right. They have very low turnover because I think people are engaged. I don't know that the work for them is any more satisfying than any other call center or any other warehouse job, but people get along. They like their job. They feel connected. So their turnover is lower. So this great detachment concept really got me thinking about engagement, about retention, about how we connect with people at work. Taking the time to call and just say, I'm checking on you. Taking the time to get an extra Jamba Juice and giving it to the person in the office next door to you, right? Just little things that matter. And if nothing else, I think they will make you feel better. They sure make me feel good. So it's not having the intended effect, but if it makes me feel more connected and it makes me feel more engaged, then I think some of that's going to rub off. And that's really what we need when there's so much going on in the world and so many distractions that people have. It's funny, when I first had my daughter, I thought that the hardest time would be when she was little because, they're so fragile and they need you all the time. And I was working and I would rush home and, make sure that she had what she needed. And I felt guilty about working. And I remember thinking, well, when she gets older, it'll just be so much easier. My daughter's in her first year of high school right now. It's really challenging. She didn't go to a school where she knew a lot of kids who were going to her current high school. So she's having to meet new people. She's a little reserved and shy. So that's hard for her. It's not something she's that interested in, to be honest. The schoolwork is tough. She has to be a self-advocate, which is hard. I'm sort of used to running the show and helping her. And I don't think I'm a helicopter mom, but I think I may have gotten close a few times. I'm really learning a lot about backing off, not looking at the grades every day. But I think by doing that, she's getting more engaged. Like I'm seeing it coming. These are hard times for her. She's learning a lot. This is a huge life lesson for her. But she's getting more engaged because I think she's got a little more autonomy. She has a little more responsibility. We've got to do the same thing in the workplace. Micromanaging has never been good, but it is a disaster these days. Give people the opportunity to do their job. Give them that autonomy. Give them that responsibility. Encourage managers who want to micro direct every single thing that's going on. Encourage them to step back a little bit. Let people make some mistakes. Figure out how they're going to solve the mistakes. Let them figure that out. And then they can come talk to you about it, right? This idea of making sure that everything is done exactly the way you want it. Well, maybe you can be a little more flexible. I mean, I've always had very firm ideas about how I want things done. And lately, I've tried to relax those a little bit. There's more than one way to do something. My way is not always going to be the best way. Sometimes it is because I've gone through every other option and I know what works and what doesn't. But sometimes I don't have that kind of data behind me. It's just what I want. Well, I need to adjust that sometimes. So when you look at a whole concept like the Great Detachment that's written about it, I think I saw 515 articles about it when I started thinking about this podcast. It's real. People are feeling disillusioned. They're feeling depressed at work. They're feeling unmotivated. They're not feeling engaged. They're not feeling like their work matters. Show them that their work matters. One of the reasons we do so much pro bono work is because employees feel good about it. They like it when I can say, oh, we just helped this company and this organization and that organization pro bono. What does that really mean? The firm is paying, right? Because we're not getting any money for that work, but the employees are getting credit for their time. So the firm is investing in that pro bono work. First of all, because I think it's the right thing to do. But second of all, it does make people happier. They like the idea that they can go, as a lawyer, they can go represent an organization that means something to them, and they can get credit for that. I didn't think about that for the longest time. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, how can I get people more engaged? And that's been one way that's really been helpful. So you have to do an analysis of your own workplace. You have to figure out where there is disengagement and why, and what kinds of things you can do to try to drive it to the other end, right? To try to make people a little more engaged. There's going to be no perfect answer. There's not going to be a pill we can swallow and make it all better. But I do think recognizing these trends in the workplace is really important. As an HR professional, you've got to stay on top of these trends. You've got to understand what people are talking about and what some of these terms mean and what you can do internally to drive a different culture if that is important to the organization. So again, I know every time we do this podcast, I tell you, oh, there's just something you should do when you're off time. I know you don't have much off time, folks. I get it. But it's worth thinking about the Great Detachment and really considering what kinds of things your organization can do to offset it a little bit. Thank you all for celebrating this 150th episode with me. Have a wonderful day. Just another week or so in this month. I can't believe it. Thanks, everyone. See you soon. Workplace Wake Up, including our guests and hosts, do not provide legal advice in this podcast. Do not act upon any of the information discussed in this podcast without first consulting a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to spread the word, please share it with others. Post about it on social media and/or rate and review it. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, and email us at info@shawlawgroup.com.